Well, before the break, we saw Danny, and she was in some really cold-looking place, and we wanted to know where she is. Wait, there is Danny. Oh my goodness, and you are in like this huge jacket. What's the deal with that?
Oh my goodness, Claudia. Well, you did ask where I was. We kind of teased that a little bit, but I have to say I was at the National Ice Core facility where they store ice cores from all over the world. This was so incredible, Claudia. So
wow,
we endured negative 40 degrees.
No, you did not.
We did. Hence the outfit. So, of course, we needed to go ahead and explore, show you more. This is right here in Colorado, you guys, so take a look at what we discovered.
Okay.
Negative 36 degrees Celsius.
You want to get a close-up on that? Woo. That's about minus 36 Celsius.
Frigid, but necessary to keep 22,000 meters of global ice cores cold enough to study.
You can kind of think of us as the central repository for all of the ice cores that are drilled by the U.S. Polar Program. The U.S. has been drilling ice cores in places like Antarctica and Greenland since the mid-1950s. So all of the major projects that have been drilled end up here in our collection.
In this unassuming warehouse in Lakewood, the cores are stored and shipped out to researchers across the country.
Our main goal is to provide a space for the scientists to come and access that collection, cut the samples that they're going to use to analyze, and then we pack it and ship it off to the various institutions where they're actually researching these ice cores, essentially trying to recreate the past climate of the planet over the last few 100,000 years.
The journey from site to study covers many miles.
As you can imagine, the logistics of getting an ice core frozen from Antarctica here safely are quite involved.
After the cores have been pulled from the ground, they're safely packed up and loaded onto an Air Force plane when they're flown to the Antarctic coast and placed onto an insulated shipping container. They're then sent to the U.S., where they eventually end up here in Lakewood.
And then when it arrives, we basically take a forklift and pull all of those pallets of ice core boxes off of the container and tuck them back into our freezer.
This icy history could provide an important glimpse into our future.
So there's a lot of really fascinating stuff that we can learn from studying ice cores, but really the main driving force behind it is to better understand our climate. Simply put, ice cores are one of the best sources for recreating our past climate over the last few 100,000 years.
We have a piece of ice from Greenland. This is from the GISP-2 project that was drilled in the centermost thick part of the ice sheet in Greenland. Wow. The total core was drilled down to 3,000 meters in depth to actually reach bedrock. This particular piece is from about 1,840 meters below the surface, and it is about 16,000 years old. Wow. And as you can see with the layering in here, there's roughly 40 years worth of snowfall captured in this meter of ice.
The ice cores are stored here locally, but they connect us to larger global research.
There's a lot of international collaboration. So at any given time, at least pre-COVID, when all of our field seasons could run as normal, there are numerous different projects going on. Small ice cores being drilled, deep ice cores being drilled. Generally for the U.S., we'll have one major project going at a time. And when I say a major project, I mean drilling a core that might be upwards of 2 miles long. Those require lots and lots of money, lots of logistics, and lots of time. A project like this will take several years, and generally will involve about a dozen universities doing all of the research.
Studies like these, which look into temperature records, atmospheric gas composition, and dating the ice cores.
Looking at things like what the atmospheric gas concentrations were, things like carbon dioxide, methane, oxygen, all of that. We can also recreate how the global temperatures have changed over time by studying the isotopes of the water molecules within the ice cores. And we can date them to kind of put all of that together. This is the best snapshot of what our Earth's climate was like and all of the mechanisms. It's kind of like a blueprint for how the Earth climate behaves. And as we get better technology and better understanding, our hope is that we can use these ice cores to basically increase our understanding of the natural cycles of Earth's climate and use that to figure out how things are going to change moving forward and what we can do to prepare for the changes or to mitigate the worst of those changes that we might see.
Changes that we're already seeing reflected in the data.
When we look at the ice core record, just looking at CO2 for instance, over the last 850,000 years, CO2 levels range between about 200 and 300 parts per million, coinciding with a temperature change of roughly about 8 degrees Celsius globally. As of this year, we're sitting around 420 parts per million of carbon dioxide. So that is well above the levels that we have seen naturally over the last few 100,000 years. And the rate of change of that is also dramatic. Normally, to go from 200 to 300 parts per million of CO2 in the ice core record, we see that takes a few thousand years to happen. We've gone from about 280 parts per million pre-industrial era to around 420 parts per million today.
This is the thickest volcanic ice layer, to my knowledge, that's ever been found in an ice core.
Evidence of a subglacial volcano.
We find volcanic layers all the time in these cores, but they're usually as thin as a pencil line because they're from halfway around the world.
Yeah.
This one is so thick that they suspect it's from a volcano in Antarctica, but it chemically does not match any of the volcanoes at the surface. So the suspicion is that this is a subglacial volcano that erupted with enough force to melt through the ice sheet and deposit this really thick layer of ash in a very small region. They were able to radiometrically date that to about 22,500 years ago, which actually nicely matches up with the age of the ice that they got based on their other dating techniques.
Sure.
The cool thing about the volcanic layers is a lot of them are found in every single ice core, so they're sort of like markers that we expect. We'll find a layer, we know that it's from this event, they'll test it, and we'll find out, yes indeed, that was from that volcanic event that we saw in the last 5 cores that we've drilled. So it's a good way to make sure that we're actually properly correlating these cores together. As I told you, they normally expect to see certain volcanic events. This was not expected, so the entire drill operation in Antarctica came to a screeching halt when I came out because everybody was like, whoa!
As scientists continue to study these meteoric cores, the data gleaned from these studies can help us prepare for future climate events.
That's one of my favorite aspects about this job, is knowing that I'm actually, in my own small way, making a difference, trying to make the world a better place if you can.
Learn more about the work that's being done at the facility and beyond by visiting icecores.org.